Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. So the BRICS summit is now over, and this wound up being actually larger than I had anticipated. I had said that it was 45 to 46 countries that were attending. The actual number wound up being over 60 countries that attended the BRICS summit. Over 60 countries. And 41 of those are applying to be members as of this time that we know of, but it's pretty obvious if they're attending, they're interested in becoming members of the BRICS Alliance. So 6 new countries, as of January 1st, will become members of BRICS. Those 6 countries are United Arab Emirates, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Argentina. So there are a lot of people that are talking about a lot of things regarding this, but on the corporate media and politics, they're trying to downplay the importance of this. You cannot downplay the importance of this. Yeah, it's only talking points if you're trying to downplay it. Marco Rubio, of all people, managed to come out with something, a sane observation about this. He says that if countries are trading outside of the dollar, then that stops us from being able to impose sanctions on those countries. So, yeah, maybe he's not a complete idiot. Although all I'm wondering is, well, who told Marco this? Because I doubt that he came up with that idea on his own. All right, so these countries account for 36% of global GDP in terms of purchasing power parity. And what is purchasing power parity? Purchasing power parity is the exchange rate, the rate at which the currency of one country would have to be converted into that of another country to buy the same amount of goods and services in each country. So 36% of global purchasing power parity is in BRICS nations as of January 1st. Now, I'm not fond of using GDP as a measure of output or anything like that. For one thing, financial services in the West, this is primarily the realm of the West, especially the United States, UK, and Germany. Although results vary, most estimates place the financial services sector at around 20 to 25% of the world economy. Why is that important? I'm going to get to that. And as far as GDP, this is from 2021. Global debt reaches a record $226 trillion. Global debt rose by 28 percentage points to 256% of GDP in 2020. Well, you can't go that far above global GDP using real assets, commodities, and so forth. It's just not possible. If you're using real assets, you can't go beyond that far beyond the value of those assets. All right, so the BRICS nations collectively, as of January 1st, will account for 36% of global GDP in terms of PPP. 46% of the global population, 80% of global oil reserves. Now, most people think of oil reserves and you think about Saudi Arabia, the United States, and Russia. But that's not all. Then you've got Iran that is a part of this. And they've got a lot of oil. But we're not done yet. Let me get to this. Okay. Brazil, oil reserves, 12.7 billion barrels. So they are the second largest oil. They have the second largest oil reserves in Latin America and the Caribbean, only behind Venezuela. And they produce about 2 million barrels per day. I think they're trying to expand that, but 2 million barrels per day. Argentina, 2.48 billion barrels. And they are the they have the fifth largest crude oil reserves in Latin America and the Caribbean. So, these countries collectively hold a lot of power. Okay, so what are other assets these countries hold? Well, Ethiopia has a lot of gold. But look at all of these countries combined. Russia, China, and China produce a lot of gold and have massive gold reserves. Then you've got Ethiopia with massive gold reserves. What else? Uranium. The combined countries that are going to be in BRICS as of January 1st account for nearly 100% of uranium production globally. And where they don't control mining of uranium, they account for a huge portion of the processing of uranium. Food production. This is where you get big. Russia alone accounts for 30% of global grain exports. China is not only a big food agricultural importer, but they are also a large exporter. Now you got Brazil, massive on agricultural exports. So these countries combined control a huge part of global agricultural exports, food production. Silver. Russia and China, and probably Ethiopia as well, produce large amounts of silver, which is needed for industry. Aluminum. What else? So you're talking about, you combine all of these things, and rare earth minerals. Even if you are talking about solar panels, you need rare earth minerals for solar panels. You need silver for solar panels. Most of the global supply of solar panels are produced where? In China. So the BRICS countries have a virtual monopoly on 80% or more of the energy supply, the energy production for the entire planet. Food production, I don't know a percentage, but massive amount of food production. They hold a near monopoly on food production. microchips between China, Taiwan, part of China, and mainland China. They produce, they are, what, 45% of global microchip production, and they control most of the rare earth minerals that are used in microchip production in other countries. So these are all very big things. All of the resources of these countries, these 11 countries combined, are extremely powerful, and we're talking about they're real assets, not financial instruments, which, if you take away even 20% of global GDP, you talk about 36% of global GDP, then you take away 20% of that and fantasy money, monopoly money. So that means that they control close to half of global GDP in real assets. China is expected to be the leading vehicle exporter this year or next year, outstripping all other countries. Steel, iron, they control a huge percentage of steel and iron, raw and processed. So these countries don't really need the West to survive. They can trade among each other in their local currencies, which will, debase the dollar. The dollar is based on the petrodollar system. If they're not trading in dollars, not using the petrodollar system, that is immense power. These countries could potentially turn around and if they're trading with the United States, say, no, we don't want to be paid in dollars. We want to be paid in rupees, rubles, renminbi, the yuan, etc. They could demand that. That would elevate the value of their currency and increase inflation in the United States. Although I would urge them to use caution in that manner, because the more you increase the value of your own currency, the more you lead to inflation in your own country and probably decrease the value, the amount, the sheer volume of your exports because they become more expensive. So, what if BRICS nations, as an alliance in the future, they haven't talked about this yet, but what about in the future? What if they turn around and, as a bloc, and say, if one of our countries is sanctioned by the United States, then we will use economic countermeasures, and as a bloc, we will sanction the United States. How much power is that? You sanction us, we don't sell to you. Or we increase how much you have to pay. Did you know that Saudi Arabia already charges the United States more for oil than they charge to Europe, and a lot more than they charge China? Saudi Arabia already made a deal with China for oil for the next 50 years. So weapons productions and exports, China and Russia are very prodigious weapons exporters, with some of the best military technology available. And while they're, and at the end of the summit, uh, Lula, the president of Brazil, said, you know, that the BRICS alliance is focused on peace, peaceful trade, and empowerment. And he also referenced female empowerment. He said that women need to hold more power globally if we want peace. Now, I'm not particularly going to go along with that. I don't think that gender is really so much of an issue, but I get his point. I'm very much in favor of female empowerment. But look at some of the people that we've had, as far as that is concerned. Hillary Clinton, Rice, just, yeah, do you think that, what's her name, the former chancellor or prime minister of Germany, Angela Merkel, that she was in favor of peace? No, she admitted that the Minsk Accords were just a ruse. No, I mean, male, female, it does not matter as far as that is concerned. But I understand his point, and I agree that women need to be more empowered and in more places of power. But I think that needs to be more women with the more feminized, gentler, mean, and compassionate means that of governing. And I believe that was the point he was trying to make. So, but the countries that are attracted to the BRICS alliance is because of the stated goal of the BRICS alliance, which is respect for sovereignty, expanding trade, investing in one another, and increasing real wealth for these countries. So it's understandable why these countries, over 60 countries, are interested in joining the BRICS alliance. And it looks like no European countries in the United States, Canada, Japan, these countries are just, they're not going to be allowed even observer status. But back to the title of this, you can understand when I have gone through all of these resources, which nobody else has actually done. I make it a point to analyze things a bit more in detail to explain just what these things really mean. But when you look at the control over all of these resources, these countries, these 11 countries, now signal a major global power shift. These countries control real resources, not financial fantasy money that doesn't mean anything. It's all made up, printed out of thin air. Instead, they control real resources. And this is power. 46% of the global population is a huge amount of manpower. All that many of these countries need is development. And they're not just focusing on developing within these 11 countries. they're also developing in other countries that that attended and are applying to be a part of BRICS, which expands their power even more. It doesn't, just because a country was not admitted as a member of BRICS doesn't mean that they're not going to trade in local currencies. They probably are. And over time, this is going to continue to grow. So this is a major global power shift. They control the energy, they control raw resources, they control the food supply, they control much of the weapons supply, much of the military power globally, which they're not seeking to exploit to like the United States does, to form a hegemon and to invade the United States or Europe, as the United States and Europe have invaded so many other countries. So this is a lot bigger than even most of the left is talking about. So I like to make people more informed. And so talk about these subjects. Share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can afford it, please donate whatever you can to help expand this channel and my presidential campaign, and I will catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day.